My name is Dr. Pamela Gay. I am the principal investigator of CosmoQuest, which brings you all of this remarkable media. So Learning Space is our new weekly vodcast where I'm going to bring you different guests every week and find out how did they get to the point of doing the amazing and creative things they're doing to help everyone better understand astronomy. Now, this is our first episode, our first go. I am afraid to say I'm sure there's going to be technical problems along the way, such as my hot water kettle going off. Okay, so I like everyone saying hi to Fraser over in the chat. On normal weeks, once we have all the technical bugs worked out, this is kind of going to be your late night show of astronomy, but only late night for certain parts of the world. I am working.
Yeah, it's morning. I've got my coffee.
Yeah, I know. So do I. But right now, over in Europe, folks are getting home from work. Folks have been home from work for a while, depending on where in Europe you are. So we're going to alternate our times just to make things a little bit confusing. Sorry, everyone. So we will be recording at noon Boston time on all of the odd Thursdays, and we will be recording at 9 p.m. all of the even Thursdays, allowing Europe to catch every other episode live and the Pacific Asia region to catch all of the even numbered shows or dates live. We will be posting all of this schedule as well as schedules of all of our shows because we're working to bring you more office hours with more scientists. So I'm hoping pretty soon we'll have a show every single day here on CosmoQuest X on Twitch. Now I'm going to take a moment to take a look over at our...
Apparently my audio is low. How do you like it?
I'm trying to... I can move my audio further from my face.
I think it's more that mine...
Yeah, I'm not sure I have controls for that. I'm looking.
You can turn down your audio in OBS. You can turn down...
You use Windows.
Yeah, you're using OBS, aren't you?
Yes, but Mac OBS is like 2 or 3 versions behind Windows OBS. So I have to do this through my Mac's MIDI device, which, let me see what I can do here. So we're working to bring you more shows every week. And starting next week, this show will also include a quick roundup of the news and hopefully far fewer technical issues. There's my MIDI software. So let me see if I can figure out how to turn up the volume.
Oh, they see I might be on the wrong mic. Hold on.
Oh, I bet you're on the wrong mic. No, you're not.
I'm on the right mic.
You're still very quiet on your end. So I'm trying to figure out how to turn you up. Can you eat your mic and I will not eat mine?
But it's, I don't know how
I can...
my mic on full, so...
So I can see your levels. So bring your mic closer to your face and I'll try and get...
It's pretty close.
Oh man, you're wearing a black shirt so I can't see your black mic.
Yeah, it's right there.
See, when you talk right into it, your levels are fine.
Everything is full on here.
Okay.
Of course, when we do the podcast, it's the opposite problem, right?
Right.
So it's absolutely in the mix of OBS.
Well, yeah, in this case, it's...
there's got to be a way that you can mix the sound in OBS.
So, yes, but there's a problem. There's a bug in OBS that causes it to sometimes, for unknown reasons, when I tell it, use my Blue Icicle microphone, it also picks up the desktop audio for unknown reasons. So currently, I had it set up to bring in just you on one channel and just me on another channel, and it noped that, and it put you and I on one channel. So I will simply use physical means, and I will try and talk softer so that we blast no one's ears out. So welcome, and I'm bringing the chat. There's the chat. Okay. So you're already discovering that there are all of these awesome Nightbot commands. If there's any Nightbot commands that you want that you don't see.
Want me to turn? How about I turn mine down
Why do you want to turn yours down?
to match yours, so that people can just turn up the volume, right? Because it's going to be infuriating if our audio levels are that different.
So I think as long as I control my voice, we're at about the same level, but you turning your audio down if you're too low is not going to fix the problem.
Oh, if I'm too low, that's right. Sorry. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
No, but that's okay.
Is there like a knob on your bicycle? Anyway, you know what? Yeah, people are saying I'm barely audible, but you're...
I'm seeing, well, when I'm not loud, I'm seeing us at the same levels.
I'm gonna try.
Okay. This is why we have Fraser as the first guest. Okay, so scanning through the Twitch chat and bringing it over so that I can look at my audio levels at the same time. Catch up at the ready, just in case it didn't age well. Well,
also, you've got the name of my company is University Today. You know.
Oh, I can fix that. That I know how to fix. You can see where my brain auto completes. That was totally my brain doing that. But I do have your logo. Okay, so can you say something?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm definitely much quieter, and it does sound weird. People say it sounds like.
It does sound like the wrong mic.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me fight with my properties one more time.
Can you hear me? Testing, testing. That sounds louder, but now like an echo.
That's because I have you in two different streams. I'm going to see. Okay, try saying something again.
It's very weird to listen to the show while I'm listening to you, and I don't know which one is which. So your audio is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have no... Oh, I know how I might be able to fix this. Let me pull up my MIDI settings again. Hello, MIDI settings. Where did you go? There you are.
I'm
Sorry.
cutting all this out when I repost it.
Yeah, no, I think all of us will totally redo this, and I may show the animation again.
This is like what people expect on Twitch.
Yeah, but it's not what I expect on Twitch.
Socolo, I had the name first.
You had what name first?
He said tossed salad and scrambled eggs. I actually sent a tweet to Kelsey Grammer saying, "Can I have my name back now, please?" He hasn't responded.
Okay.
I'm caffeinated up.
Weird. It's still... Okay, so say something?
Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing.
It's still putting the two of us on the same channel. Okay, so this is on the list of things that I will work to fix next time. And I'm going to just keep moving my microphone further.
It's still super quiet. I don't think it, I think it's better to spend time. I mean, I don't want to produce you.
Yeah.
but it's like really bad.
Okay, so I need to figure out how to get that microphone to not be a thing. Um, so I'm now getting you much quieter, even compared to before, but you're still showing up on both channels. I should now have an echoey you. Say something?
Testing. Can you hear me? How many channels am I on?
You're on 2.
Actually, that sounds great.
It does?
Yep. That's it. That's the one. Whatever you did.
Okay, so I
Don't-
guess the echo is so low folks aren't hearing it. Okay, so everyone, we're going to do a redo on this.
Yeah, don't touch it. Don't touch anything.
I am going to go back to the opening screen. You're going to see the opening screen for like 2 minutes while I fix the audio on the other channels, and then we will be back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new show, Learning Space, where this is our first episode, and things aren't going to go entirely smoothly, but this is why our first guest is my good friend Fraser Cain, who I've been co-hosting Astronomy Cast with for 12 years now, and he can be patient with the tech, and this is also paybacks. Because since Fraser and I have been podcasting on various different shows across so many different years, he has many different times gotten to interview me about how it is I got into astronomy. And this is my chance to talk to him about how he got started in this great endeavor. Now, before we jump into that, I want to tell you a little bit about this show. Learning Space is part of our CosmoQuest suite of media here on Twitch. We are also going to be adding a new Spanish language show. We're going to be increasing the number of office hours we do. And I'm going to start teaching a photometry class on Sunday nights right here on Twitch. These shows are going to get added kind of one at a time. And as we move forward, as we do more and interesting things, you're also going to get to see more and more faces here on Learning Space. Our goal with Learning Space is to kind of be like the Trevor Noah late night show on Comedy Central. A little less humor, probably just as much sarcasm, but the general format moving forward. This week was our week to work out the technological bugs, so consider this tech dress rehearsal. Moving forward, we're going to start with about 10 minutes of news, bringing you just quick highlights and commentary on what's going on. Moving past that, we're going to have a guest on the show, and at the end of the show, we're going to talk about some place you can go online, some product you can either download or get in the store that will help you learn and participate in more and more astronomy. Now, with Fraser Cain, he has had a truly remarkable story that I don't think enough people have gotten to hear over the years. While I was still slaving away in college, he was off conquering the high-tech world. And I don't think, Fraser, that most people know your early days and the things that you did before you got into space writing. So can you give folks a quick overview of this weird and awesome double life you had for a while, where you were doing high tech and you were writing books? Well,
Is
role-playing.
that
It's all so connected, right?
Yeah.
So to think about like how it all sort of starts. I was actually just interviewed on the I Need My Space podcast, and they're like, and one of their questions for me was, why do you need your space? And my answer was, I've kind of always needed my space. That like when I was a little kid, I was super into Star Trek, and as soon as I could, read novels, I started to read my parents' science fiction books, and my parents used to take me out to see the meteor showers and learn my constellations. And I bought my first telescope when I was 14 years old. And when I was in high school, I was on the journalism program and reported on things you could see in the night sky, like these old copies of the newspaper, our school newspaper. And I was like showing you what things you could see in the Orion in the constellation of Orion in the wintertime. So kind of my favorite book as a child was that Our Universe. Do you remember that Time Life
Yeah.
books, with the really cool spaceship on the front and crazy aliens inside? So I was like totally into space, but it had never occurred to me that was a career. I know it sounds super weird. And so when I finished high school, I applied for a bunch of engineering colleges, and I ended up going to the University of British Columbia for their engineering program. And so sort of left space behind me, but sort of had thought, well, I'm going to maybe go into like aerospace engineering or some kind of mechanical engineering, and so maybe I can sort of bring it back around to space. It turns out I don't have the right mind to be an engineer. I'm not, or the right personality.
But you're
Far
one
too.
hell of a project manager.
Yeah, well, I'm much more entrepreneurial. I'm much more about like, figuring out how to make a thing and sort of making it happen. And you're exactly right. Project management is sort of my side. And so a couple of my friends and I had some ideas for some software products that we wanted to make. And originally we wanted to make a video game company, and that sort of never really went too far. And then I had this idea to like, wouldn't it be cool? Because this is 1991, so like, there was no internet that you could really use. There was no modems, any of this kind of stuff. And I had this brand new laptop that I bought, and I was really loved it. And I didn't want to get it stolen. And I thought, well, like, how could I have my laptop not get stolen? And if it did get stolen, how can I get it back? Was my question, right? And so I'm like, well, what if, we put a virus on the laptop where if it ever gets plugged into a modem, it calls home. And I suggested this idea with my friend, and
And
he's
I
like, "Oh,
love the fact that you thought of it as a virus and not as a utility.
well, it would have to be a virus because it would have to hide, right? So it would have to be like, something like that." And so I talked to my friend, and he was, a good programmer, and so we started working on that. And I sort of dropped out of university, and we worked on this company, and worked on that for a couple of years, and got the company to a place where, and got the software to a place where it was actually kind of functioning. I left that company because I just wasn't kind of enjoying myself. It has gone on. It's called Absolute Software now.
Yeah.
Like I registered the domain name absolute.com. It went public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and I moved on to another company, which was a web development company out of Vancouver. The second I could use the internet, the World Wide Web, 1994, Mosaic. I'm sure you remember. I'm sure you were right there too.
I was in college. I was at Kitt Peak National Observatory in '93. The first time I used Mosaic, watching the Shoemaker-Levy data come down, and I started learning HTML. But yeah, I was still in college, slugging away as a poor student. The thing I love about you is you're like, yeah, I figured this out. I don't need this formal stuff anymore. I figured this out. I shall go just do it. You essentially are living the life of the bored Elon Musk Twitter account.
Without the money and the ability to launch rockets and stuff.
The bored Elon Musk is just a list of fabulous things that someone needs to develop. And you like go out and develop these things.
Well, thank you. So then, at the same time, as you mentioned, I was working. I also was working in a comic book store, and I don't remember all the timelines in Vancouver. And one of my customers was a writer, was a guy named Nigel Finley, who was a writer for magazines for like role-playing games. Mm-hmm. So he wrote a lot of stuff. If you own any Shadowrun games, you go look at your, who wrote your Shadowrun games. They were mostly written by Nigel Finley. He wrote a bunch of stuff for D&D, all this kind of stuff. And I was also a big gamer, which now gaming is apparently cool again. So I can say this. And I wanted to do that. And so I'm like, well, how do you write games? Like, how does a person do this? And he explained it to me and was willing to kind of take me on as an apprentice and sort of help me get my first writing gigs. And within, a couple of years, we had worked on a bunch of projects together. And from Nigel, I learned how a writer writes, right? Like if you say that you're a writer, what you do is you sit down in front of your computer, you have your coffee, and you write. And then you have lunch, and then you write some more, and then it's dinner time, and then you're finished. And his pace was he would try to write about 5,000 words a day. And his sort of whole philosophy was you just write as quickly as you can. That, it's about learning to write fast, and then eventually you learn to write well and fast. And you have the advantage that you also write fast. And that was sort of the real lesson that I learned. And so I went on, I wrote a couple of games. I did a couple of Shadowrun stuff, one for the scheme called Earth Dawn. And then I joined this, after I left the software company, I joined this web development agency out of Vancouver called Communicate.com. And because I sort of really wanted to understand and get into web development. And that was because I knew that this was the future. Like anyone, I feel like there's so many of us out there, like you, the younger kids, as they're used to the internet. And they're like, the internet is great. I can't imagine a life without the internet. But for those of us who were there at that transition,
it was amazing.
We experienced it, and we knew the moment we tried it that this was going to change everything. There was no question. You didn't have to like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to resist it. No, you're like, this is it. I'm all in. This is going to change the world. The same way that you kind of, used your first smartphone. You're like, finally, this is it. This is what it's going to be, right? The iPhone and all those. So I wanted to get involved in that. And so I joined this web development company. And over the course of 3-4 years, we kind of built that up and we sort of became one of the top web design companies in Vancouver. I was one of the partners, and we had mostly my clients were like banks and the hydroelectric company and trading companies and things like that. And I had a lot of experience with these clients, but I didn't really have any practical experience in doing web development on my own that I could bring to the table. And so I was like, I'm going to pick one of my hobbies on the side, and I'm going to run a website on the side that's going to teach me everything I need to know about just what it's like to run a website so I can provide better advice to my clients.
Now, so what exactly was the name of that website? Do you tell?
It was called Universe Today.
It's just this little thing that's still around, I think.
Yeah. So almost 20 years now ago, I started up this website, and as a part-time thing to teach me. And I realized immediately that it was about updating your website every day. It was about sort of interacting with the people who were finding their way to, in the beginning I had an email mailing list, and then later on, then we had RSS feeds and things like that.
So I'm going to bring up your website, but I'm going to have to fuss with the audio for about 10 seconds. So
if you want to do it's even more fun, go to the Wayback Machine, archive.org, do a search for Universe Today, and you should be able to find the original ones back from 1999.
Okay, so yeah. Universe. I thought you started in 98. Was that Phil that started in 98?
Yeah, Phil was just before me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling that up, and then I will switch views, and I'll have to fix the audio for a moment. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is Learning Space. We are a new project that will bring science to your brain once a week, as long as we can find guests and find people willing to come listen. Our special guest this week is Fraser Cain, who is telling us basically how he went from being your everyday university student studying engineering to being a leader of one of the largest English language, and I think one of the flat out largest space communities on the internet. Now, I'm going to switch screens so that you can see what his website looked like on May 8th, 1999.
There you go.
And I just need to play with my audio for a second. Okay, and we are back with audio, hopefully for both of us. Can you say something, Fraser?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, so we are good with two different things of audio. Now, I have found your initial. It looked pretty darn sharp for 1999.
It was garbage. Come on, I
But
made
for
the logo myself.
1999,
I guess.
you were already using iconography.
I was.
Yeah, and you had search.
Yes.
And you're linking to things on Mercury salvage that they were trying to do and how they lost a submarine, space station relations, and this was back in the days of Mir.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a Delta 3. We're now up to Delta 5s.
Mm-hmm.
And switching over to what you have today, it looks just a little bit different.
Yes. Yeah. So I started up this website on the side. I picked one of my hobbies, right? I was into mountain biking. I was into role-playing games. I was into video games. And I said, well, like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of my hobbies. I'm going to use it to teach me more about space and astronomy, and at the same time just run this website and just experience what it's like. And then I can use what I've learned to teach my clients to be a better website developer. And so I did, and I ran the website. It'd take about an hour a day or so. And then I would, and I learned a ton, like just mountains and mountains. But I also learned that that's all I wanted to do for the rest of my life, right? And so it was really just now a matter of time before I left my job and went on to running Universe Today as my only job. And so around the .com crash, 2001-ish,
Yes.
I did, we got sucked up into that, and I did leave the company, and sort of fortunately, I had
Universe Today. You
left the web design company. Yeah, but I had some money saved up, and my wife was working at the time, and so we were able to kind of keep going. And I just threw all of that energy and experience into building this thing up, and really haven't looked back. I mean, from that point on to where I am today, it is this sort of contiguous now blur of memory without specific, I mean, we started Astronomy Cast, whatever, as you said, 12 years ago.
Yeah, 2006.
And there's a lot of other projects that I've worked on as well, but it's all been under this umbrella of Universe Today. And I still am as excited and enthusiastic to do this job every day as I ever have been.
And one of the kind of amazing things about how you've done this is you've figured out how to earn a living on the internet.
Yeah.
And I know
Sometimes.
It hasn't always been kind to you, but you've always been on the cutting edge of figuring out how to make it work. And anyone who earns part of their living here on the internets, it's make it work moment after make it work moment. And you actually managed to turn what you learned doing Universe Today into a fairly significant software company that was awesome until Google changed its search rules on you, or advertising rules on you.
Yeah, yeah. I guess. I mean, the thing was like, one of the things that we had learned was just how to, what kinds of information people were really interested in, and it was a lot of work to kind of maintain all that. And so I built a software tool on the side with a friend of mine that allowed us to kind of just manage how we were running the website and which stories and concepts we were covering, and we had sort of tapped into this Google database to sort of pull all the information for us. And it says, and you're exactly right. And so we had some other people that wanted to use the software, and so we were selling that on the side. And then Google changed their database, and so we sort of shut that down. So, yeah, that was I learned a very valuable life lesson, and I'm seeing a lot of people do the same thing, which is like, don't rely on these big companies. Don't rely on Google or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any of this stuff, right?
Don't rely on APIs.
Yeah, don't rely on APIs. They're at some point they are going to shut it off and make your life difficult. So, and a lot of times actually you can sort of do things manually on your own or write scripts that give you a lot of the kind of functionality that you need. So it was a sort of valuable life lesson. Yeah.
Now, about the time that you were figuring out how to go from relying on Google Ads, you've constantly found new ways to innovate things. So you were one of the first persons to just step back for a moment in time to figure out how to actually effectively use Google Hangouts. And you started using them in 3 or 4 different ways. I don't remember how far apart things were in time. First of all, you figured out how we can podcast there with Astronomy Cast. And going to live video is perhaps the most terrifying thing I've done in my life.
Yeah.
You figured out how to get the virtual star parties going. And then you started this really cool news show that was the weekly Space Hangout, that when you went on hiatus, the members of the audience was like, no, we are not going on hiatus. And they created the weekly Space Hangout crew, which is one of the most amazing groups of astronomy humans.
Yeah. So when... Okay, so let me sort of it's a tough one. Okay, so I've had this. Twitch is sort of demonstrating that people want to hang out in real time, and that's the Super Bowl and that's the Oscars, right? But in our world, there's something special about being able to spend time in real time and chat and talk with your friends and just sort of be part of an experience. And we had been doing Astronomy Cast where we would just call each other on Skype and, we would record the show and then we would shut it down and then we would be done. And I wanted to have a way that we could engage with the audience. And so I said, well, let's switch over to what we're doing so that we do Astronomy Cast as a live show. And so and up until that point, a lot of the tools were very expensive. You had to have like a live stream account, or, there weren't a lot of really easy Ustream. That's right. Or you had to, have some kind of high bandwidth thing. But Google released this tool, these Hangouts, and they made this version of Hangouts called Hangouts on Air that allowed you to publicize the Hangout. And that was the moment where I'm like, okay, great. Now we have a tool that lets us do a live show and be able to not have to pay for it. Yeah. And it's a side effect, right? Like we had to record our show anyway, so we might as well just record the show and let people watch and hang out while we do it. And that was sort of the idea. And then once you figure out that you can sort of do these live shows, then you start to wonder, like, what else can I broadcast live? And so that was sort of, that led to the idea of the virtual star party, where we bolted all these telescopes into live cameras and put on a show showing the night sky, which, by the way, is coming back. we'll get to that if you want.
Well,
And then,
I'd like to take a moment and show the video that Google recorded,
oh sure,
because it's such a fabulous video, and I believe that the audio should go into the stream. I don't know what volume it will be, but we shall find out.
And just angle it a little bit down, like towards the line there.
Like that? Okay. Fraser loves the rosette, so we always go to that when it's in view.
I love science. I love communicating and exploring about space and astronomy. I want other people to enjoy this stuff as much as I do. My first instinct is always to set up the telescope and go, you look first. So when Google Plus came out, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could get a telescope streaming an image right into the Hangout? And Mike's got just this monstrous telescope that he's built himself.
I hadn't even done a Hangout yet. I'm like, this actually sounds really intriguing, right? It's telescopes, it's computers. Let's figure this out, let's try it.
He emailed me and he said, I think I've got it working. And he invited me into a Hangout, and there it was. You know, there was the moon. I was hanging out with the moon. That was when I knew we could do anything. You know, let's get more telescopes, let's get different points of view. Everyone, this is Umair.
Hi, Umair.
He's based in Pakistan, and then we've got Peter, who is in Australia. We're getting people from Mexico and South America and South Africa, and Malaysia. Hey, there's Pamela.
Hey, Fraser.
And now suddenly, there is a way, with almost no effort, we're able to bring all these people together and put on a show.
Too close.
Everyone good to go? Good to go. I'm gonna click on Start Broadcast. We're public in 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody. Once again, we're gonna have our virtual star party. Working the telescopes tonight, we've got Stuart Foreman. He's the one showing us the moon right now. We've got Gary Ganella. What's your view, Gary?
The monkey head, it's in the upper part of Orion.
That's really cool.
If we were looking at this image in color, what we'd see is this is a beautiful red number.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, I think everyone's ready but Mike.
Way to go.
And no pressure, Mike. Oh, I think I see something. Can you move it a little down, Mike? There it is. Oh, man. Look at that. Don't ever change cameras, please.
Just in being in contact with these people, just talking to people. Some that you don't know, that you're getting to know, even though they're 3 time zones and thousands of miles away.
Somebody to share with. You know, it's nice when I look at my pictures and know I did it. It's wonderful, but to share it with somebody.
Being able to look out into space gives us context for how we live in our day-to-day experience. It shows us that we're part of this bigger universe. All right, so Gary, you've got the rosette for me.
I do.
I mean, for us, for everyone to see, not just me.
Don't kid us. It's for you, Chris.
It's for me, yeah.
Now we have Saturn is green. You guys are just into technical.
So that was...
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience putting together that video with Google. I'm so grateful, but part of the reason that they did that was because of all the different things that you'd essentially pioneered for them. You figured out how to do the Google Hangouts, you figured out how to do the virtual star parties, and that actually got us into the Google I/O keynote that year. Yeah. And then the following year, do you remember that crazy broadcast we did for the landing of Curiosity?
Yeah, that was super fun, and that was great. Yeah, so we did a live Curiosity. NASA was broadcasting the live event of Curiosity, and in general, we find the NASA events are very dry, and so we were like, well, how can we jazz this up? And so we got a whole bunch of really great guests. We got some people, some live correspondents down at NASA itself who were able to sort of join the hangout. I think Amy Shiratitle was there.
Emily
she was handling,
Lakdawala.
and Emily Lakdawala was there, yeah, from the Planetary Society. And then we had guests all around the world. People from the SETI Institute and Alan Stern joined us, and we had other scientists from the team and stuff. And we just had a party where we hung out and watched the actual event, and then sort of interacted with the fans. And I think we had 50,000 people joining us on the live stream for that. So that was a party. And then after that, we did a 8-hour live stream of the Venus transit. And we did the same thing where we just got people to just show up and hang out and be silly. And we had telescopes around the world that were live streaming the Venus transit. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and sort of demonstrated that there was absolutely something about being part of a live event like that, which is really special. And so we've tried to sort of connect that and bring that forward with every project that we work on, whether, we like it or not, getting the community involved. And I think that is, the first 10 years, there was no community.
Yeah.
There was, people didn't know what I looked like. People didn't know, right, anything.
Yeah.
They had no connection beyond just the news that I published. And it's really been in that second 10 years where community has been the focus. And it's like this gift that just keeps giving back. The more I invest time into the community and connecting people together in helping people grow their audiences, the more fun I have and the more I enjoy this job. And so really, for anybody who's sort of in this field at all, in any kind of field, if you're just like, focus on the community. It's so much fun.
And one of the things that I really remember as something that I took as a life lesson was back in 2008, you and I and Phil Plate were doing how to blog, how to podcast workshops. We were taking the time out to talk with people over Skype who wanted to figure out how to get going. And somebody asked at one point, aren't you worried that if you train all these other people to be podcasters, that they're going to steal your audience and you're going to lose your income? And do you remember what your response was?
No, I can imagine what my response was, but no, please tell me. I don't remember this at all.
Okay, so it was one of those moments that to me was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be done. And you said something that to paraphrase, boiled down to, the more people who are producing excellent content, the more people are going to learn about what we're doing, and the entire podcast listening community is going to grow. And if someone is able to get better than me and steal my audience, then I have something to learn from them and I'm not keeping up. And so this idea that we can grow the entire community to the benefit of all of us, and it's on us to be the very best, and to sometimes say, wow, that person is doing this thing better than I am. I love that idea of celebrating everyone's accomplishments and working together to grow our listenership and our viewership. Yeah,
it's been a philosophy that I've really tried to promote from early on, and it's been actually very well received. I think I hope that the people who are in the astronomy community feel like the astronomy communications community feel like it is a very welcoming and very enthusiastic and very, we celebrate everybody's work, and it isn't as cutthroat as other fields, and because it doesn't need to be, right? Like the internet is like, there's Skyless. I hope Skyless got the astronomy community hug, right? That anyone who wants to stand up and wants to help communicate with the public about space and astronomy is a friend of ours, and we will do everything we can to help you grow an audience. And if you do a job better than us, then watch me. Yeah, well, so teach us, right? Like I'm incredibly competitive. I'm probably the most competitive person that you know, but I am always trying to compete with you, not against you. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like, I want to, like, if you're going to do something better than me, then I'm going to do that thing better than you, but I'm not going to do it at your expense. Yes. I'm just going to like, oh, we're in a running race and you're running faster than me. Oh, now I'm running faster than you. And then feel, and I'm going to help you catch up.
Yeah.
So that is, but I still want to win. I just want to make sure that it's just everyone, ties for second. So, So that is, I really feel strongly about that. And I find that now that I've really figured this out, I can't help people fast enough. Right. And that is
the amount of mentoring you've done over the years. Ian O'Neill, you are Fraser, Phil Plait, me, Nancy Atkinson, Susie Murph, who's part of our team, Nancy Graziano, who's part of our team. You've helped mentor people either on the tech side or on the how to communicate side for essentially 2 decades.
Mm-hmm. I'm just getting started. I'm figuring out new ways to help more people at scale, right?
Yeah.
So I figure out a way to bring in and showcase someone in every QA episode that I do. I interview people for my Guide to Space episodes. I'm now doing these live QAs where I'm bringing people, guests. We talked to Isaac Arthur and Cody's Lab, and we got John Michael Gaudier next week. So and then what we do on the weekly space hangout where we try to bring in a guest. Like I just try to take what spotlight that we have and shine it on as many people as humanly possible. And I think that's, I wish more people did that because you can see that the future of like the old world of all these distribution channels are all breaking apart and cracking down. And what's going to be left is this sort of built up network of people connecting individually and finding their way to the content that they love. And that there's a million opportunities to share in every single little niche of this. So that's absolutely my priority.
And one of the other things that you do that half drives me crazy, but I still love you, and is also amazingly impressive, is you take risks and you're out there trying to figure out things. It was put very well by Christian Walters a few years ago when he essentially said, most people think they do pilot studies, and I'm paraphrasing terribly here, and then they maybe act. Fraser sees an opportunity and he just goes. And as an academic, my entire life prior to starting to work with you was you propose an idea, other people review your idea. Maybe you get funding for your idea. If you get funding for your idea a year after you had your idea, you start your idea. And there's about 6 months ramp up time because you're waiting for the contracts to get put in place, the money to be deposited. And you taught me that sometimes you just say, expletive, I'm going to do this thing. You spend your personal money buying microphones. You spend your personal time figuring out how to set up OBS, for instance. And then you invite people to come in and you rely on them to help make what we do possible.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's 2 separate things there. I mean, there's 2 separate ideas that are playing off each other, right? So the one thing, you're exactly right, that I am, I'm incredibly risk averse, but I understand that a lot of the things that you're describing there have no risk, right? There's no risk to turn the camera on and broadcast something on the internet. Like that,
there's a risk of failure, but there's no risk of annoying anyone.
So what? You fail,
yeah.
Right? Like that doesn't matter, right? It's not like someone's going to come and take away your house because you did a bad podcast, right? So I think there are risks that are definitely you have to be super careful about. And so actually the way I run my business and the way I run my life is actually very risk averse. But I'm definitely not afraid to make changes and to try things out, right? So, I can tell you in incredibly granular detail the new changes that Instagram has made to the way the tags work and how that has sort of changed the way people are finding your content because I'm in there playing around with it, or Snapchat, or anything new that's popping up, and we're using Nightbot now and things like that. So I'm willing to just take anything that comes my way and just tinker with it and play with it and figure out how it works to find out if it can be added to the machine or whether it's not worth my time. And And the more that I go through that process of change and experimentation, the more I realize that it's totally worth doing. And a lot of people are just afraid to even just take something on. They just kind of go like, I don't like this Snapchat thing. I'm like, well, have you used it? Have you spent time in it? Like, just tinker with it. And so I had my daughter. My daughter was my Snapchat buddy. And so we Snapchat with each other, and my son, right? Because we need to understand how this technology works and then decide whether you can use it or not. So that's the first thing, right? And I think that is, and the people on my team, Nancy Graziano, Susie, Nancy Atkinson, I'm not going to apologize for changing things all the time. And well, maybe I apologize. I'm Canadian. I'm sorry. But I'm going to do this all the time because that's the world that we live in. And we can't be afraid to try stuff out and see what happens, right? And so we're like, oh, we're trying, Slack. I was like, hey, we're all using Slack now. And you're like, what is this thing, this Slack? I don't like it. Is it another kind of chat? And it's like, it's too late. We were already using it, and, things move on. And now we use Slack. Other stuff, and now we're on Discord. But, welcome to the future. So that part, I think, changed. I think we all have to be really comfortable with just trying this stuff out and never kind of going, like, if a bunch of people are using a thing, then chances are that thing is good and your opinion about that thing is wrong.
Yes.
That is the instinct that I've sort of honed. But the second thing, and I think is the thing that's more important, is about the trust in community.
Yeah.
And, again, it's this thing that I've been trying again and again and again, which is like with the Weekly Space Hangout crew, as you said, they self-assembled, they self-formed during our hiatus to hang out, maintain the community, share the stories they liked and talk about the other shows and places they could get their news while they waited for us to come back in the fall. And that is an amazing thing, right? Like, just to think that these people are going to do this, and there's so much goodness and so much goodwill and community spirit involved in that how can you not want to contribute to that? Yeah. But I think that the default move for most people in most organizations is to try to control that, to say, here's this thing that is representing us out there on the internet, and I need to have some kind of control over it. And the reality is that's what destroys it. That's what ruins it. And so the thing that we've really done with the Weekly Space Hangout crew and a lot of other stuff is to instead have it be a partnership where we have no control over that organization, that community. They are, they could become the Star Talk radio crew anytime they want, right? Yes. And we have no control of it. They run their own website. They run their own Slack community.
We show
have no
up because we're invited and we like them.
Right. That it is an incredible honor for these people to be fans of what you do, and they get to run their own organization. And in fact, we take it to the next level. Yeah. And so they're all executive producers of the show. I just tell them, like, you're an executive producer of the show, and an executive producer of the Weekly Space Hangout can absolutely send an email to NASA and say, can we get so-and-so on the show? And, it takes a little bit of brainwashing, but now all of the guests that we get on the Weekly Space Hangout are just provided by them. And some of the most interesting ones, like we had Bas Lendorp, who was the CEO of Mars One. Someone said, well, you should get Bas Lendorp on the show. I'm like, you should get Bas Lendorp on the show. And so they wrote an email and got him on the show. And like, what? Yeah. It was awesome. So it's that trust in that community, and that I really feel is the next big unlock. It's the next key to what we do. And like on my Instagram account now, I just hand over the keys to the account every day to a different astrophotographer. And it's never not been amazing. Yeah. Each day, a new photographer does an incredible job and presenting to now our fairly large audience, and they get a ton of new followers, but they all treat us with respect. And so I think that is the biggest lesson that I've learned, is that you just trust people from day one, give them as much sort of responsibility and ability to contribute as they can and they want to, and then know that you're doing the right job. So that is huge, and that is those two things coming together, which is like run experiments and trust in the community, and those two I think are really, now that's the playbook that I'm running from it at full steam.
And what I love is you've figured out how to pay people whenever you can to be part of doing the good work. And part of the way you do this is you were one of the first of our crew to be on Patreon. And so I'm currently showing your Patreon page where it looks like you're about to do the Vader, like,
I know, I love
force. That. So please don't kill anyone. Yeah. But you have this amazing community that doesn't just support you through their volunteerism. And you have always made it very concerted effort to make it clear, here are all the things you can do that are completely free to support us. But for people who do have extra and do want to give extra, this is why Universe Today isn't a deeply covered in advertisement site like it was for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this has also allowed you, I'm pulling up your YouTube page, to start doing all these new videos. And now I'm going to play just a bit from your farewell Kepler video.
That we've only known about planets orbiting other stars for just over 20 years now. The first extrasolar planet found was the hot Jupiter 51 Pegasi b, which was discovered in 1995 by a team of Swiss astronomers. They found this world using the radial velocity method, where the gravity of the planet pulls its star back and forth, changing the wavelength of the light we see ever so slightly.
Okay, so what gets me about these videos is they are amazingly well produced. And this is a whole new game. And this is where you've been able to bring in an amazing group of creatives to help you out. So Chad Weber, who's also a software developer, has been doing a lot of your videography. And I think you have more people to the team than just Chad.
Well, there's my wife.
Well, yes, there's that too.
Yeah.
She's a photographer.
Yeah, no, it's just Chad. So I write what you're talking about is the guide to space.
Yes.
And we've done 350 episodes. There's actually a new one coming up today, all about the Gaia release. And I write the episodes, and Chad edits them together, and we post them on YouTube. And my wife runs the video camera, and again, it's sort of like I knew that understanding video was a thing I had to learn how to do. You can go right back to 350 episodes ago and watch our progression as we figured out how to do this. And those are much more work, especially for Chad. But it's I think people really appreciate that sort of more thoughtful reporting side. And the fortunate thing is, I am exposed to so much little pieces of space knowledge that I can sort of synthesize it all into one episode. And that's one of the things I try to sort of provide the basic explanation for people who don't know too much, but I also then go deep into journal articles and talk original sources and talk to the researchers and get stuff that people who maybe even know quite a lot about these missions and science ideas won't have heard about. So yeah, no, that's a whole other thing. Just do all the things all the time, everywhere.
And this is just really cool stuff that you've been able to put together. Now, I will say you are also willing with your guide to space to ask some of the more out there questions, to go down some of the more interesting rabbit holes.
You won't let me.
I won't let you on Astronomy Cast.
Yeah, exactly.
But what is it about these white hole and alternative physics and things like that questions that you just enjoy playing with so much?
Well, it's funny. You have absolutely affected me, though. You and Paul Sutter and Ethan Siegel and all of these astrophysicist friends, Brian Koberline, all these astrophysicist friends that I have, they have absolutely sort of made me the skeptic one, made me the guy who ruins sci-fi Christmas. So good job, congratulations. I'm the one who doesn't have the sort of, the futuristic attitude. I mean, you got Isaac Arthur and John Michael Gaudier and those guys who are, bringing science fiction Christmas. So, but a big part of it is that a lot of it just comes from the questions that I get all the time, right? That there are a lot of these ideas that are presented because we love our science fiction, we love our Star Trek, we love our Star Wars, we love all this stuff, and we want that stuff to be real. And so we grasp at any technology, any little thing that can get us to that reality. And so these things, these white holes, wormholes, string theory, all this kind of stuff are that. And so, no, I mean, I've done one episode on wormholes and the gist is no. I've done one episode on white holes and the gist is no. So I think I spend a lot less time. Actually, the place where I like to be in the content that I create is I like to be what's being worked on right now and what are we just about to figure out. And so the Gaia mission data release is exactly the kind of thing that I love to talk about, which is like, here is this dump of data that just came out and it's really amazing and we need to appreciate all of the incredible science that's coming out of it and what's coming next. So, yeah.
And so every week I'm going to work to propose to all of you out there in our audience who are having such a cool conversation. And I'm amused that you're saying a kraken turned on everyone during yesterday's show.
That would be Paul. That's the nickname that Paul has gotten now.
It's true. So our product for the week is the Guide to Space show. Oops, I have the chat on top of it. And if you go to YouTube and you look up Guide to Space, it will take you to this amazing catalog of just episode after episode after episode that have high production value, that go through, answer a lot of different questions, and that take the time to explain things clearly and concisely, and to also use really good NASA and other publicly available videos that any of you can get. And all of them have credits, so you can literally go out and get any of these things. And I have to say kudos for being one of the very few video series that actually provide credits, provide links to research papers, and give the scientists and the artists working on these press releases and explainers the credit they deserve. So kudos for referencing everything.
It's the same thing though, right? Like, if I can give a shout out to somebody with a link to their paper, then I'll do that, right? Whatever I can do to send, on every Universe Today article, I try to get all my writers to put where the original source came from, right? So people can go track a story back to its source. It's the same move. You're seeing it again and again and again. I have one move.
And you enable people to go down fabulous rabbit holes.
Rabbit holes, yeah.
All of us are grateful.
Yeah, they can suffer the same rabbit holes as me.
So I really appreciate you joining me here on our first episode after being on hiatus of Learning Space. Next week's episode, for those of you who want to tune in, next week's episode is going to be... sorry, I'm trying to pull up our website and it noped me hard. Next week's episode is going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is 6 p.m. Pacific, which is 11 a.m. Friday in Sydney. So our next episode is going to be timed for all of you who are in the Asia Pacific region and Australia. Now, if you like what you see, we do have our own Patreon account, and we would love you to help pay your funds get used to do things like allow us to go to conferences and produce content from those conferences, to do things like I have a fantasy of someday having a green screen so that when I'm doing the news, I can, well, show you images from the news a little bit better. But most of all, you're allowing us to do this not as something that we do as a volunteer, but as something that we do actually as part of our day jobs. Bits count too. I know this is Twitch, so either support us with bits if you have a few to spare, support us with subs. Remember, you get one free sub on Patreon every single month if you're an Amazon Prime member. And if you can support us over on Patreon, we will find ways to give you things.
Yeah, I mean, just if you support the things that you love, then the things that you love will figure out how to make more of the things that you love.
Yes.
Right? That's the limit. The limit to what kinds of stuff I can make is the funds that I'm able to spend on editing, and like road trips would be cool, and filming stuff on location and things like that. That'd be great, but
yes.
These things are expensive. So, we do what we can with the money that we have. So if you want the people that you love to make more of the things that you love, then participate.
And literally this is a feedback mechanism of the more funding comes in, the more content we can produce. I am not the only streamer over here on CosmoQuest X. We also have in our group of people who want to put a science in your brains. We have Dr. Matthew Richardson, who is a postdoc at the Planetary Science Institute. We're going to start having Andres Plazas, who is a new research scientist we have working with CosmoQuest at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. We have programmer, developer, and all around just awesome social media face. Joe Meyer, who is one of the people that comes on this channel to talk about how we program for science. So give us a follow if you haven't already. Follows are free. And if you have that little bit more to give, hey, we're just a nonprofit running through the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. And every little dollar, sometimes that's the difference between having a functioning cable and not having a functioning cable when your USB cable decides it's done. So thank you. And please follow all the other people that we've talked about today. Follow Dr. Matthew Sutter. What's the name of his show? I'm blanking.
Ask a Spaceman.
Yes, Ask a
with
Spaceman.
Dr. Paul Matt Sutter.
We have also in the chat Cosmic Lettuce, who has been a podcaster participating in our 365 Days of Astronomy show. He's also active on YouTube. We have Nancy Atkinson, who wrote a book you can go get that talks about how we've made possible some of the adventures that we've had throughout our solar system. Yeah. And hey, thanks a lot, Cardboard Box, for the follow. So go and get your science on. We're working to, well, make it easy for you here on the internet. So do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with, Fraser?
No. Well, I mentioned earlier that the virtual star party was coming back, so I can give sort of a bit of an announcement for that, which is our good friends at Oceanside Photo and Telescope have got a bunch of remote observatories that they're in the process of setting up, and they're kitting out with gear that we can use to do a live broadcast but to do fast pictures of space, because everyone's attention is so short. So I think in the end there's going to be 4 or 5 observatories that we're going to have access to, and this is the big challenge. This is why the VSP back in the day sort of crumbled, was that we just couldn't herd the cats every time, because different astronomers, they were enthusiastically out there, but they would get clouds and we would have to cancel the whole show because people couldn't.
Winter happens.
Yeah, winter happens. Well, not apparently in Phoenix or in Eastern California. So So hopefully we're going to have a collection of telescopes that we can bring in as sort of the baseline. So we will always, and so if one of them is clouded out, we can just put them in front of one of these telescopes and get some images. So we want to bring the thing back with everything we've learned, live streaming from telescopes, whatever's up in the night sky right now, special guests who know the astronomy, and we're gonna have a party. So look for that any time now, as soon as the winds die down and don't threaten to blow open the observatory dome where the telescopes are.
And when you're back, we will work on having you and Dustin on to talk about this great new adventure you're starting.
He's also building a space telescope, which we may get access to, which is going to be, you imagine that? We've got a space telescope that we can bring into the virtual star party. Yeah. It's going to get pretty exciting.
It's kind of awesome.
A couple of people are mentioning, and I guess I should, which is that we've got a couple of interesting trips coming up that people should, if they want to join me and Dr. Paul Matsutter. I think it says sold out, but maybe there's still a way to join us for the cruise, which is in September. And then we're going to Costa Rica in March. We're going to go out and tour the landscape and take telescopes and teach you the night sky. And we're going to see volcanoes and wildlife. And Costa Rica is amazing. It's one of the best places I've ever been. So you should check that out. Go to astrotours.co.
And in fall, 2019, I will be joining the Astro Tours to do a tour of the American Southwest, which is my favorite stomping ground. So this has been a great episode. Thank you so much, Fraser, for joining me. And this is the start of hopefully great new things that all of you will come to look forward to week after week. So one more shout out. This is Learning Space. We are part of CosmoQuest at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. You can follow us on Twitter, CosmoQuest X, where we announce everything ahead of time. Give the channel a follow. And it's not just Learning Space here. We also do astronomy office hours, and we are going to do direct observing to help teach people how to do better photography as part of their observations. So I wouldn't say it's a virtual star party because photometry looks much less interesting.
Virtual photometry party.
Yeah, it's a virtual photometry party. So I look forward to seeing all of you, and tomorrow you can catch both of us. This is hard. You can catch both of us recording Astronomy Cast at what time, Fraser?
Noon Pacific?
Noon Pacific, 1 Eastern, 6 London. I have no clue what time in Asia
I think it's
Pacific.
3 Eastern.
What did I say?
You said 1.
That doesn't
It's 1
work.
your time, 1
No, it's
Central.
2 my time.
2 your
I
time.
failed to math.
Yeah. You'll be all right.
So,
it's not like time zones are important or time is important for astronomy.
So 3 p.m. Eastern, which is 8 p.m. London. So we will see many of you tomorrow over on the Astronomy Cast channel on YouTube. So thank you, and have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon wherever you may be in the world. Thanks.